How does a real estate foreclosure auction work? Welcome back. In this episode, I'll answer the question, how does a real estate foreclosure auction work? Now, this is a step-by-step process, and I'll try to go through it in a step-by-step manner. It's not complicated, but it's easy to get confused. So my name is Ted Thomas. I've been involved in real estate for well over the past 60 years, but the past 30 years, I've been involved in tax lien certificates and tax defaulted property. I like the business. It's easy to do, and I'll teach you how. I'll teach you a lot of advantage. But right now, we're going to talk about real estate foreclosure auction and how do they work. So I discovered a different business than that about 30 years ago, and I've been doing it for the last 25, teaching people how to do it. But right now, let's talk about the foreclosure. Now, when the foreclosure takes place, it gets pretty nasty with the homeowners. And so the homeowners get upset because they're going to lose their property. So this is not a clean, easy business to be involved in. So when you get involved with tax lien certificates, you're going to see it's much easier because with a tax lien certificate, you're going to help the community. By that I mean, if you buy a certificate, you're going to help the local county. That's number one. But number two, you're going to keep that person in the property. The people are not evicted because they stay in possession of the property. And number three, you're going to earn some pretty darn high interest rates. So how does real estate foreclosure auctions work? Well, first of all, I'm going to tell you right now that the local county will be having the sheriff deliver notices when the people go into default. Now, a real estate foreclosure auction is basically taking over because a bank is not getting paid. So the property owner has defaulted on their mortgage. When they default on their mortgage, the bank is going to take action against them. That action is called a notice of default. That means they're going to give them so many days to pay, or they're going to come and confiscate the property. Now, a foreclosure auction on a mortgage, in the eastern part of the United States, they use mortgages. So that means it's going to be a legal process. So what has to take place is the bank has to hire an attorney. Does that cost money? You better believe it does. All right, so they hire the attorney. The attorney files a lawsuit against you, okay? Ultimately, you're either going to have to answer it or you're going to have to default. Ultimately, it's going to get in front of a judge. Could that take time? Could take 3 months, 6 months, 9 months. I've seen them last 2 years. So people stay in those properties. Now, if you want to buy those properties, you can try and get them pre-foreclosure, or you can wait until the bank gets them. If you do it pre-foreclosure, you're going to have some challenges because those people are not happy campers. They're losing their property. Nobody likes to lose money. So in this episode, what I'm talking about is how does a real estate foreclosure auction work? Well, it works pretty severely because what's going to happen is that people are going to lose their property. All right, now when this video ends, I have a couple of things to tell you about. One, there'll be a free gift there for you. And number two, I'll talk about 2 mistakes that take place at tax auctions. So stay with me and I'll come right back. Okay, I'm not a negative person, so I don't want you to think that this is a negative video, but foreclosure is a pretty severe situation, okay? So the longer I'm around real estate, the better I like tax lien certificates and tax deeds. Why? The government does all the work. All you do is go to the auction and buy. You don't get involved with the foreclosure part of it. But I'm going to show you the positive side of the foreclosure business. And I know that there's a ton of hype out there on television. There's a lot of brokers hyping foreclosures and whatever. That business is not easy. I've written books on it, and I can tell you it's a slim margin business, and it has a lot of difficulties. However, the hype doesn't tell you all that. So there's an old saying in real estate. And that saying is this: one man's garbage is another man's gold. So think about that. That could work with cars. It can work with real estate. It can work with private property. It can work with just about anything. So that's what happens in the real estate business. Now, as I go into depth, I want you to know when you get involved in the real estate business and it's foreclosure business, there's nothing clean about it. It's not a nice business. It's a difficult business because people are losing their property. Now, your heart has to go out to people losing their property. However, it's a business, so you have to keep it that way. But these people are desperate in many cases, and they haven't thought out the situation. So their mood and their attitude isn't good, and they might just destroy the property. I shouldn't say they might. They probably will destroy the property. All right, so I'm always going to suggest that you do as I did after I did real estate for 30 years. I said, wait a second. Wow, when I found out about the tax lien and deed business, I made the change and I completely revised my investment portfolio. All right, so I'm going to show you how to make avoid big mistakes later on. But right now, let's just talk about how does a real estate foreclosure auction work? Well, it works like this. Step number one, the property goes into default. Step number two, the bank sues the homeowner. That's an actual lawsuit against the homeowner and whoever signed that note. Now, I don't know what you would feel if you got a notice that you're going to get kicked out of your house, but it happens. And when it does, everybody's getting pretty darn distressful. So I've learned over the years that the county sheriff is the one that's going to do that auction. And if they show up at the auction and there's no bidding, what they will do is they'll just give the property to the bank. But if there's bidding, it's going to start more than likely at what's owed to the bank. So let's just use a simple number. $100,000 house. It's got a $50,000 mortgage on it that people haven't paid. So more than likely, the auction is going to start at $50,000, maybe a little bit more, so they can try to recover attorney's fees. But the point is, you're not going to get a property without a big loan on it or without putting up a lot of money. So if you put up a lot of money, the $50,000, they'll give you the property, and then it won't have a mortgage on it. But now you're $50,000 into the property. Compare that with a tax property where there's no mortgage on it. You might buy it for 60, 70, or 80% discount. A lot of difference. So real estate foreclosure auctions are not quite as easy as tax defaulted auctions. Okay, now it's difficult to figure out what you're going to bid at those auctions. Okay, now they're well publicized. So if you want to find foreclosure auctions, they're going to be in the paper all the time. They're going to be online all the time. And if they don't call it a foreclosure auction or a sheriff's auction, they'll probably call it a trustee auction. Now, the trustee auctions take place in places like Oregon, California, Texas, where they're using a deed of trust as the lending device, okay? Now, states along the eastern side of the United States, they all use mortgages. Other states use deed of trust. In the middle part of the country, they might even be using a contract for sale. All right, so the foundational information is this. The property has gone into default. They're not paying the mortgage. So the mortgage holder has no other alternative but to sue the property owner. All right, so now they've hired an attorney. The attorneys are going to actively come after you. They're going to aggressively put a lawsuit against the property, and they're going to put a lot of different liens on the property to make sure that you're not going to do anything. You're not going to move out of that property. So it wouldn't do you any good if you move out and abandon the property. You still own the mortgage. You own it because you signed it. It was a promissory note that you signed. All right, for the property owner, same situation. If you're buying into these properties, these people are under stress because they know that they're going to have to still pay that mortgage in many cases. Now, I'm aware that late night television and a lot of people are bragging about foreclosures. Now, the government will have a lot. They call them HUD, H-U-D. That's a Housing and Urban Development. They'll have thousands and thousands of properties to sell every year. The Veterans Administration, they'll have thousands of properties every year to sell. All right, they sell those properties, and real estate brokers like to sell them to people because they offer financing. The problem for you is if you're trying to buy foreclosures, someone's going to have to pay off those loans. The only time the loans are off the property is when you go to a tax auction, they wipe it out. All right, so when you get in the foreclosure business, understand you can make profits. You're going to have to work for it all the way, but you're going to have major risk. You're going to have the risk you put up a lot of money, and you don't know if you can sell it or not. So when you go to sell it, are you going to sell it as is, or are you going to sell it as a fixer-upper? Those are going to be things you'll have to think about if you're in that business. I'm not suggesting that it's easy. All right, so let's face the fact. The people that are in foreclosure, they are stressed out. The banks, they're going to use attorneys. So now those are two groups that are difficult to do business with. But if you can get an inside with the bank, the inside's only going to get you so that you can buy the property and they're going to recover their loan. The bank is in the business for one reason only, recover their loan. Now, in many cases over the past few years, they haven't been able to recover their loan. So that's why hundreds of banks have closed down. They've just closed down because they couldn't collect their loan. They had no more money. So you want to be careful you're not a victim of the bank and you're not a victim of the foreclosure party. All right, so the question I'm answering today is how does a real estate auction work? It's a simple process. They're going to bring the property to auction, and when they do that, the starting bid more than likely will be what's left over on the loan. So if the loan was a 97% loan, which like they make today, then you're going to have to pay 97% of the value for that property. So do you want to pay 97%? That's going to be pretty tough to do. I'm in the tax lien business, tax deed business. I changed 30 years ago because I could get properties without loans on them. 60, 70, 80% discount. You're getting the idea. Am I pro tax lien and tax deed? You bet I am. All right, now the bank filed a lawsuit. So that means the lawyers are involved, the bank's involved. Now the bank has hired the sheriff to go down there and sell the property. So the bidding will start at some astronomical number. 50, 75, 80% of value is where they're going to start. They want to collect the back mortgage. So that means someone's going to have to pay that. So understand, you're not getting great bargains at those foreclosure auctions. All right, who does this work for? This works very well for the bank. The banks don't like this, but they're going to get a lot of their money back. But you're going to have to pay a lot of money at these auctions. All right, if they have an 80% loan, expect the bank to try to get their 80% loan out of the property. Can they discount it from there? Yes, they can. They might allow the sheriff to drop the price. But I'm going to tell you, don't plan on it. When they get to the auction, they expect to get their price. They expect that. So that's going to make it difficult for you. So it's going to take a long time before they drop that price. So foreclosure is nothing more than the bank attempting to get their collateral back. The loan, the collateral was the property. So they want the property back so they can resell it. Now, if the property has value, they might be able to resell it. But if the property has a 97% loan on it, they're not only going to have their 97% loan being unpaid, but they'll be paying attorneys, they'll be paying brokers. They'll own the property at 110% of value. I'm sure that you don't want to pay that. So they might drop the price at the auction, but they might not. So this foreclosure business is not what it's hyped to be. It's a difficult business. Yes, you can make money, but you better be one shrewd buyer to go to those auctions. They will sell the properties to someone at every auction. When the sheriff starts selling, if he can't get a bid from someone standing in front of him, he'll turn right around and tell the assistant, sell it to the bank, and they'll sell it back to the bank. And the bank will now own the property for whatever was owed on it. So they couldn't get it sold at auction. That's going to happen day in and day out. Now, the past 10 years, places like Phoenix, the market dropped 70%. Millions of people lost their property because of that. Same situation in California. Same situation in many cities. Why? Miami, same thing. Crashing markets. If there's mortgages on those properties, people won't buy them. If there's high values that the bank expects to get, people are not buying. People buy bargains. Check it out. Go to Walmart. Are they the high price? No. Is Costco the high price? No. Target the high price? No. Go look at their parking lot full of people because people get bargains. Okay, foreclosure involves angry people that might not have your best interest at heart. All right, so I'm just about finished on this session, and I'm going to take 2 questions before I leave. In a tax deed auction, rarely can you see the interior of the property, although there are some states and some auctioneers that will allow you a certain day when they do a tour of those properties. What they're concerned about is people getting hurt because the property might not be maintained or has been abandoned and things like that. So generally speaking, you cannot see the property inside. So bid accordingly. Don't be the high bidder. Should you use a realtor to sell a property? Well, I say try to do everything you can. If you want, definitely use. I'm not negative on real estate brokers at all because if they have clients, you want to have access to their client base so that you might sell it to them, or the broker might sell it. But I also use Craigslist and then Facebook Marketplace and eBay. I would do everything I could. I would put signs all over the place. You need to make an effort and control your destiny. If you're waiting for a real estate broker to get the job done, you might wait a few years. Meanwhile, you're going to pay taxes, you're going to pay maintenance, you're going to pay insurance. You need to be aggressive when it comes to sales. Below me is a place that I've put the videos that are popular, and you might want to go check those popular videos out. They're on the channel. All you have to do is give you the name of the video, and you can go there and check those out. I'm Ted Thomas. I talked about 2 mistakes. All right, now the 2 mistakes that you want to avoid is, number 1, don't buy any property that you haven't seen. Why? What if there was a hurricane? What if it was next to a chicken farm? You would not want to own a property next to a chicken farm. It's going to stink. So you would not want. Why you wouldn't you want to own it? Because you're going to have trouble selling it. So it's going to make it a worthless property. All right. So the other mistake is you don't want to bid on any property, number 1, that you haven't seen, but number 2, that you haven't figured out the exit strategy. In other words, you need to know what you're going to sell it for before you buy. You don't want to say to yourself, I think I'll buy this and hope I can sell it high. No, you want to know what you can sell it for and that'll control your bidding completely. Okay, so my name is Ted Thomas. Free gift for you below. Nice to meet you.